Hello guys, welcome to Alasdair Aquatics. I hope you're doing well. So just before this video starts, I'm of course going to be talking about probably my favourite fish in the tropical fish keeping hobby. That is of course Siamese fighting fish. So just before we start, I just wanted to say quickly that this video is purely based on my own experience with keeping BETTA fish. So maybe don't believe 100% everything I say. You know, what works for me might not necessarily work for you, and vice versa. So be sure to do your own research and, you know, learn from your own experience as well. So I hope you enjoy this video, and let's see how we get on. I have a very quick message just before we start. I just wanted to say thank you very much to those of you that have subscribed to my channel already, and thank you to those of you that are liking and commenting on my videos. It really means a lot and really makes me feel good to see that people are enjoying watching my videos, and I really love to know what you guys think. So again, if you have enjoyed this video, when you get to the end of it, be sure to hit that like button and click subscribe if you're not subscribed already. Okay, so this video is going to be all about betta fish, or BETTA fish, or Siamese fighting fish. Okay, so in America they're called betta fish. Here in England they're called BETTA fish, and they're also known as Siamese fighting fish. Now, there's a big clue there in that last name, the Siamese fighting fish. So these guys fight, they're aggressive. The one you see in my tank is a male, and males are notoriously aggressive, and they should never be kept together. If you keep them together, they will almost definitely fight until one of them is dead, or possibly they could both end up dying. Okay, so really not a good idea at all to mix these guys. But having a tank of about 5 gallons, about 20 litres, makes a perfect habitat for a single male fighting fish. And they come in a huge variety of colours and a huge variety of forms. And when I say forms, I mean you get half moons, which sort of have these really big long tails. You get placats, which is kind of what my guy is. He's a placat, so he's got short fins and a bigger body. You get crown tails, where their fins look all ripped. You get double tails as well, they're starting to be a thing. So you get quite a few different sort of shapes to them, you know, their fins can look different. You can also get Dumbo ear BETTA fish. So they have their fins are sort of really big. They look like elephant ears. I think that's why they're called Dumbo bettas. So yeah, you get quite a few different sort of shapes and different fin types, and you also get quite a few different colours. So you get dragon scale bettas, which if you've seen some of my other videos, you'll know my BETTA fish Alpha. He's a dragon scale, so he has these sort of metallic-y, shiny scales to him. Takashi, who you see here in the video, is a koi BETTA. Okay, so he is a koi BETTA. That normally means there's a mixture of red, white and black. He does have a little bit of blue in him. Trying to think what other ones. You can get bettas that are completely jet black. You can get bettas that are just blue, bettas that are all just red, white. I mean, you know, there's more and more sort of coming into the spotlight now. There's also giant bettas or king bettas. There's a huge variety. I'm probably not going to focus so much on the sort of giant bettas or king bettas, as I really don't have any experience with them. I'm just going to focus on the sort of normal sized bettas and things to bear in mind when keeping them. So we've already gone over tank size. I would say a minimum of about 20 litres. Some people say you can keep them in smaller aquariums, you know, say 15 litres or, you know, something like 3 or 4 gallons, which I mean can be okay temporarily. But I mean, as you can see from this video, you're going to see Takashi darting around, and you know, this is a 20 litre, and yeah, I think personally I'd say this is a sort of good minimum tank size to go on. So they are a tropical fish, so they do like the water warmer. They're going to need a heater in that tank. I keep the water around 78 Fahrenheit, 80 Fahrenheit, something like that. You don't want these guys getting too cold. So here's Takashi at the front. They look great in a little planted tank. I mean, this is a low-tech planted tank, so all it's got is a light and a whole load of plants in there, and I had some liquid fertilizer, but I don't have CO2 running in it or anything like that. I just wanted something easy to maintain. And if you've got a small tank and you don't want to have, say, a shrimp tank, you want to fish in there, I'd say if you want something with a lot of personality, go for a BETTA. Be sure to have a lid. These guys are known for jumping as well. There's even a few videos of them sort of jumping through hoops. I think someone's trained the fish to jump for food, and they've managed to get a few videos of them jumping through hoops. But they make great pets. They're quite funny guys, and they have a good amount of character to them. They're beautiful fish as well, so this is why you're going to find they're really popular in the hobby. Lots of people keep BETTA fish. They really are a cool fish. With male bettas, don't be alarmed if you wake up the next day and find a whole load of bubbles across the sort of surface of the water. This is the BETTA making a bubble nest, and it's completely normal, and they do it when they're sort of in good health, as far as I'm aware. And from my personal experience, they seem to do it when you sort of change their environment. Say you move them from one tank to another, or you do a big water change and trim up a whole load of plants. When you sort of put them in a new environment, that seems to, in my experience, trigger them into making bubble nests. But if anyone knows anything more about that, please be sure to leave a comment down below. So yeah, these guys are pretty cool fish. In terms of feeding, I think the best thing to go for would be a mixture of, say, tropical flake food, some sort of flake food. There are some BETTA specific flake foods out there, and also some frozen or live bloodworm, as these guys love it and makes quite a nice treat. But yeah, I think variety is key. Another thing to think about in your tank, you're definitely going to want a filter. Okay, so you're going to want some media in that filter holding all your good bacteria, and you're going to want some water movement. Now, as you remember before, I mentioned that BETTA's going to have different fin types. So my BETTA, Takashi, he has shorter fins, so he can tolerate a little bit more flow, I'd say, than my other BETTA fish, Alpha, who has long fins. The longer the fins, the easier it is that they get blown around the tank. So placats, or shorter fin bettas, usually do a lot better with a bit of flow. If you do have a BETTA with long fin, which I'm sure most of you will do, just be sure to aim the outlet. Okay, so that's this part of the filter. Aim that towards the glass, or maybe put a sponge in front of it, just dispersing that flow, just to make life a lot easier for your BETTA fish. As far as tank mates for a BETTA, you're relatively limited, especially if you're keeping your BETTA in something like this tank, something like a 20 litre or a 5-gallon aquarium. The really only option you're going to have is probably something like a Mano shrimp. These guys are relatively tough, relatively big and robust, and normally BETTA fish don't take too much of an interest in them. Takashi is living with, I think, 3 Amano shrimp in this tank, and there's no problems at all. He is right next to one at the moment, and he just doesn't care. So yeah, Amano shrimp almost always work out. Notice I said almost. You can get BETTA fish that, for whatever reason, are absolutely incompatible with any sort of tank mates. I've had it in the past where I've tried BETTA fish with certain other tank mates, and it just hasn't worked out. So the main thing, if you're going to be adding tank mates to a BETTA tank, it's always a really good idea to have a backup option. And another sort of good thing that helps is to have the tank mates in the tank before you add the fighting fish. This way he doesn't think he's being fed, or he doesn't think there's an intruder coming into his tank or anything like that. As far as fish to go with your BETTA fish, I would only really recommend keeping other fish with your BETTA fish if it's in a tank of at least something around sort of 60 litres or around sort of 20 gallons, something like that. if you've got a tank of that size, say about a 2-foot tank, you can normally keep your betta fish with certain other species of fish. I've had success keeping my betta fish in the past with cardinal tetras, harlequin rasboras, and I think there's quite a few more options out there. You know, so be sure to give that some research, have a look. Even certain species of Cory I've gotten away with. But again, it really depends on your betta's personality. Sometimes it's just not going to work out. Now, if you are planning to have one of those slightly larger, say you've got a 2-foot tank and you think, yep, I want some harlequin rasboras and I want a fighting fish as my sort of main focal point fish in the tank, the best option you can go for is look around your local fish shops and find a tank which has something like some tetras or some harlequin rasboras, but also has a fighting fish in it already. Okay, that way you know straight away, okay, this betta, he's going to play nice, he's living with some harlequin rasboras in the shop, and maybe talk to the shopkeeper, see how long he's been in there, see if he's noticed any issues or anything like that, and yeah, get that betta and then get some of the fish that are in the tank with him. That way you're 100% sure that when you get home he is going to get on with the fish you've added. But there's also a chance that a few months down the line he might suddenly change his mind, so that's something you've got to be wary of. You know, you've got to be wary that your fighting fish at one point or another might suddenly switch on the other fish in your tank. So it's always good, again, to have that backup option. I've always been quite lucky. I've had multiple fish tanks set up, so if ever there was a problem like that, I'd always have a backup option. Now, in the past, these fish have been kept at room temperature in bowls and things like that, you know, with no filter, just living in their own mess, really poor water quality. So I think as a hobby, as a sort of fish keeping hobby and in a community, we're really doing a good job now at sort of spreading awareness, and almost every tank I see, planted betta tank, you know, that's a really popular thing to see online, which is really great, and I want to see more of. It's just such an easy option, really. You got a little tank on your desk, yeah, get a betta, plant it up, have a betta fish. It's a great little interesting thing to have on your desk. As far as price goes for betta fish, it varies. So we mentioned all the different sort of fin types, all the different colorations, and they play a huge factor in determining sort of how much the betta is going to cost. If you're going for a basic betta, or betta splendids, I think they're called, you can expect to pay around sort of £5, which is maybe like $7 or $8. Takashi in this tank, he cost me £25 because he is a koi betta fish, and I just really wanted that colour of fish. You know, it's £25, that's probably around $30, something like that. But you know, you can expect to pay a lot more for bettas, or anywhere in between. It really depends on where you go and what specific type of betta you're after. But in general, I'd say roughly £10, you know, roughly £10, $15 is sort of a normal average price you'd pay for a fighting fish. So let's go back to that 5-gallon aquarium idea. Say you've got a fluval spec V like this tank you see here, or some other tank of around sort of 20 litres. You're thinking, right, what should I keep? And maybe you don't want a betta fish. There's not a whole lot of options. If you didn't want a betta fish, you could go for something like a shrimp tank, or possibly one pygmy puffer. But again, be sure to do research into whatever you're planning on keeping in there. But I think the most popular option, without a doubt, has got to be a fighting fish. They're just absolutely stunning fish, full of character, active. You know, you can imagine this tank, if it had a pea puffer in it, which I did think about, I mean, you wouldn't really see him very well unless you're really up close to the tank. But Takashi, on the other hand, the second I walk into the room, that bright red, you know, he's really striking, and yeah, it just looks great, and I'm glad I went with it. I do think it's true that they spend a lot of their time sort of patrolling their tank and looking what's going on, and sort of checking he's got no intruders. You know, just from watching Takashi throughout this video, I'm sure you've seen he's searching around his tank, you know, checking out what's going on, what's happening over there, what's happening over here. They're quite inquisitive fish, and I think that's another reason why they're so popular. They're not something like a tetra that's just like a dither fish or a schooling fish, you know, that swims around with almost sort of not much purpose. They're sort of swimming sort of aimlessly, following each other, and, you know, staying in a school or anything like that. With a betta fish, you actually can see quite a bit of maybe thought going on. They think, oh, what's that over there? And they'll go over there and they'll take a look at it. So yeah, they sort of swim around with purpose, I like to think. But they can also be quite playful. Another thing to mention, these guys are labyrinth breathers, or they have a labyrinth organ, I think it's called, which basically means they have gills, but they also come up to the surface for air. So that's something to bear in mind, just in case anyone watching here has something like I think a fluval edge, you know, those sort of tanks which actually have glass along the top. That probably wouldn't be an ideal home for a betta fish, just because the betta fish needs to get easy access to the surface of the water to breathe. Okay, so we come to the end of the video, guys. I really do hope you've enjoyed this one. I've loved talking about my favourite fish in the tropical fish keeping world. They're just full of character, absolutely stunning, and thrive in a smaller planted tank, which I think is really accessible for a lot of people. And like I said, this is just my opinion or my experience, so be sure to do your own research. And as far as tank mates go, always be sure to err on the side of caution, especially if you don't know the nature or the character of your betta yourself, because like I said, some don't play nice, others you can have tank mates. So just be sure to be on the cautious side with that. And again, I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to like and subscribe. Until next time, guys, it's bye for now.